Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm back. I don't have a ton of stuff, but I am working on a couple of things.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Hang on a second. I'm going to
Okay.
add you here. Okay, so we would like to welcome you to Fabric Chicks Live on Mondays. And today we have Sandi DaRoza, who owns Rogers Lane on Instagram. And, well, that's her studio name. You can find her on Instagram. Where else can they find you, Sandi?
So I have a website. So basically just on Instagram and my website, which is rogerslane.com. And Rogers Lane came about because that is the street that I grew up on. I grew up in Northern California, and I really have a lot of fond memories of that time. And so that's what I chose to call my studio.
Perfect. Okay, so we got it scrolling across.
So it's Rogers Lane Studios.
Okay.
With an S.
Okay. I'll edit it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Rogers Studios.
No, you're fine. Okay, so we're gonna just for a little bit while people are logging on, we can chit chat. Okay. Welcome everybody. Okay, I'm gonna get this. I might have to call Devin to have him come in and edit it for me. Okay. You know that techie stuff.
I know. But on Instagram, it is Rogers Lane. It's just Rogers Lane, lower caps. It's not my picture. I have a picture of my artwork. Because when I had a picture of myself, I got a bunch of weird, creepy followers.
Oh, yeah, it happens.
Yes. So I kept having to block all these people. And so I said, okay, I think I need to switch my photo. So I did. I put some of my artwork on there, and I don't get any more creepy followers.
Nice. You know what I'm always having to do is go in, and when people comment on different things on Fabric Chick stuff, I think because we're Fabric Chicks, it's like a triple X name.
Yes.
So we're always getting weird stuff, and I'm having to go block comments to all of my customers. Constantly, I'm in there blocking users because they'll send them little messages. It's so bizarre. It should be illegal.
I know. Well.
Okay. So, Sandi, you are from the Bay Area.
So I am from the Bay Area. I grew up, I'm born and raised in California. So I grew up in Northern California in Vacaville, California, when it was just a little, cow town. And then I moved to San Francisco. I went to school. I got a bachelor's of science. I was a respiratory therapist, but I was always a sewer. My mom taught me how to sew. And I was always just, I love fabric. We would go to Ben Franklin's and get all that fun stuff. And I always wanted to go into being some kind of art, but we didn't have enough money. And so I knew that I needed to support myself. And so I went the route of getting a biology degree, because I knew if I went into some kind of healthcare that I would always find a job. So it didn't matter. So I said, okay, I can do that. But all along, I always dabbled in sewing. I had a little kids clothing company in the 90s, and I sold a lot of my just the cute little dresses. There were baby doll dresses that I sold at some of the markets, and then some of the cute little boutiques. When in the 90s, there was a lot of those cute little fun kid boutiques that they're starting to pop up now a little bit more.
Right. When my kids were little, when I opened the shop in 2008, Etsy had just kind of started, and I could buy really, really overpriced boutique clothes for my 2-year-old. But they were often of the fabrics that I carried At that point, we were all online. We didn't have a real store. And so she would be dressed so cute in these outfits that were $120.
Yes.
But it was all it was all marketing. So, I could write it all off back in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
day.
yeah. Well, no, I know. I used to use actually quilting cotton fabric, and I would make these super cute baby doll dresses and all these cute little overalls, and it was all fabric. I was like, I mean, but it was just me, and I was working full time, so I would sew at night, and it was so much fun. I wish I would have continued, but then I ended up having my own kids, and then so that kind of um I was busy with taking care of them. So,
Yeah, they
but
kind of get in the way.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you really enjoy doing now?
Okay, so
And
well,
you teach
I
classes
teach
and you
classes, I give lectures on color. I do a plethora of things. I am just really, I love being creative. So I started off sewing many, many years ago, but then I went into painting. I did some painting, and I did some jewelry. But in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
oh sorry.
So yeah, so it's been 7 years now. So I had, which was so scary for me, but because I had breast cancer in both my breasts. And so I have, these are not real, but they're not real, but I had like 12 weeks of chemo, and just last year I've been on was it Arumadex for 7 years, and it really did a number on my body. But so anyways, during that time, I after about 2 years after the breast cancer, I went in and got like this checkup, and, she says, "Oh my God, you're just amazing. You're doing great." And now I'm almost going to start to cry because it just brings back that PTSD, because I do have a little bit of PTSD from that, because it was so shocking when you get that kind of diagnosis.
Right.
I mean, even when I go to the dentist now, I'm like, oh my God, what are they going to find?
Yeah.
But so anyways, I walked out of there, and I just cried. I was bawling in the parking lot. And I thought, oh my God, God gave me more years to live, right? And so I thought, okay, what do I really want to do now? What is it? And so that is when I decided I really wanted to really discover what I was going to do the rest of my life. And that was going to be sewing and fabric, because that's really what I love. And so that's what I do. So I started collaging these fabric tapestries, kind of art quilting. And so that kind of, led to one thing or another. But I also love wearable art. If you go onto my website, I love making clothing and all sorts of, jewelry, stuff that I can wear as well. More so than I actually love, things that for my wall, or I like things to wear.
Right.
So this last year, well, I have actually had two art shows. I had a solo art show just last year, at the end of last year. And then the year prior, I had another solo art show in San Francisco. And that was primarily just my art quilts. But so I do that, but in between all of that, I'm always creating. I'm doing all sorts of things. I also have a line of stitching patterns, and that I've made into pillows, but you can make them into anything really. I wanted to share. So the one pattern that I have, it's a bee, a bumblebee, and I'm actually going to be at the San Francisco Guild. They have their show at the end of the month, and I'm going to be a vendor. And basically, I'm going to be just kind of promoting some of my workshops. I'm going to be selling some of my patterns, because now what I've done is some of the pillows that I've made. I made them into patterns. So you can go ahead and buy the pattern and make it your own. Because I really want to inspire other sewists to create and make it their own as well. I mean, you can follow my pattern and do it exactly the same, but everybody has an abundance of fabric, and so you know what kind of fabric you like. And so, but anyways, I wanted to share this. It's slow, it's embroidery, it's slow stitching, and I'm just partially done with it, but I'm going to scoop back so you guys can see it. Oh, I got it backwards. Hold on. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's very wrinkly because it's been on my lap.
So
But
you're on the road right now. You're not at home in your
I'm
studio.
not at home right now.
Right.
So,
Right.
which I wish I was, because I would have had more to show you. But so this is one of my patterns, and it just says it's a bumblebee, and then it says happy. And so I put it on some linen calico, and then I framed it with a bunch of just pieces of small scraps of fabric, if you can see it.
Mm-hmm. And then the stitching around, is that all embroidery?
It's all embroidery. I'll bring it a little closer if you can see it.
Oh
It's
gosh, that's
embroidery.
beautiful.
And it'll be really pretty because it's so wrinkly. But so I used the fabric marker that I use is that water soluble one, where once you press it, it will remove all the ink. But I didn't use a hoop, so that's why it's so wrinkly right now, because I've had it on my lap and I was traveling. But once I'm done stitching all of it, I will then press it out, and it's going to look fabulous.
Right. And then you're going to slow stitch all the pieces around the edge.
All the edge. And then I can there's a couple of things I'm going to make. I'm either going to make it into a pillow, a cute spring pillow, and put ruffle around it, or I might just make it into a small little table quilt. That will be really pretty for springtime. So that's something I'm working on. But I've done a lot. I also draw a lot. I'm doing another. I'm going to show you my little drawing right now. Is my little bunny. I love bunnies. And so I'm going to draw this. I'm going to make a little, it's going to be a pattern, and I'm actually going to have it. I'm trying to work on it so that I can have it for the San Francisco Guild show, but I'm also going to have it on my website. It'll be apron, but the pocket of it will be the bunny, and then you can stitch the bunny, embroider it. It'll be super cute. So I'm going to do that one. And I also have a little, well, I grew up in Vacaville, and I grew up in a farm. And so I love farm animals. So that's why the bunny, and I'm going to make another pattern with a piggy. And so maybe a cow too, but for right now, I'm focused on the rabbit and the bunny and the piggy. So,
but you don't just do handwork, because I do have a lot of people on here that don't really. I mean, handwork is like a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Although it's one of my favorite forms.
Yeah.
But
no, I do a lot of quilting. I do regular quilting. If you look at my website, I do a lot of raw edge applique. I do that, but then it is the quilting, and I like to use the quilts that I like to do. Is I have I don't use a pattern for just my blocks. I kind of do a similar, I lay out, like if I'm going to do a block, I lay out the fabric and kind of just, then I piece it together. So it's just a random, but I feel it's so beautiful that way.
More improvisational.
Yeah, and more creative. It's kind of like you're not following a pattern. Like you'll one of the classes I teach is that so you start off making a block, but you kind of just, you'll randomly make, strips of fabric, and then you'll place it, and then you'll piece that fabric together.
So how
That
do you know what size to cut them in?
it'll just flow. Like you can make him any size. I mean, you could make him like 10 by 10. You could do your size, like say you want each square to be 10 by 10. Then you follow, like, okay, however you want to put your fabric, that's how you're going to piece it. But it's called it's called wasabi, and in Japanese, wasabi means just oh, what is the wasabi? It's putting everything together, what you have.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, let me make sure. I gotta look it up because I forget what the wasabi. Let me look it up. Was but that's wasabi. What
So
is
if they're real structured brains, would they have a hard time with that class?
Maybe, but I like to bring everybody, I like to bring the creativity out of everybody. I like to, because we all have it, right?
Right.
And and once you take a class, or it'll be like second nature to you.
Right.
Um,
I
yeah,
think sometimes people are a little bit nervous because they're not confident in their skills, but it's really because they've just never tried.
exactly. Exactly.
And I think once they try, they really kind of get the hang of it, and then you can't stop them. So it's kind of
Right.
like you just got to shove them out the door and let them spread their
Exactly.
wings.
Exactly. And the thing is that I think quilters, we're always, it's hard because you want to be so structured, right? But the beauty of when you like look at someone's quilt or whatever, it's because they tried something new. It's not always like, oh, they're not following exactly. They've kind of gone off the track, right?
Right.
So um I don't really, I mean, I use patterns, but for quilting, I like to be more
Mhm.
improvisational.
Which is
So
perfect for me because having to sew a perfect 1/4 inch
hmm
sometimes is really hard for me. So
right,
my stuff doesn't really line up. So I love it when it can be a little bit more forgiving.
yeah, I think it is, but it's not to say I do love, regular quilting as well.
Right, right.
Yeah. So and then I do all my I ran into Beth at QuiltCon, which was really fun, and I was wearing my jacket, and we saw, what was her
Rachel
name?
Clark.
Oh my God, right? Her
Yeah.
jackets were gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Incredible. I want to be like her when I grow up.
I know, huh? Right? But
Yes.
you're beautiful in yourself, and you have such great style, Beth, and you need to just be you because you're just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
you don't need to be anybody else but you.
Right.
And but I think her jackets were stunning. I mean, I came out of there thinking, oh my God, I need to go back and make another jacket.
I know I need to up my game a little bit.
I
I
know.
actually have some fabric on the long arm that I'm quilting for the back of a jacket. It's going to be the base, and then I'm going to applique a dimensional dragonfly on top
Oh,
of it.
see, that's what I love. I love just adding that extra element to your quilted clothing or to your quilts. I think that adds so much. It's kind of like when you dress up. I kind of like, right, like you add dimension to your when you wear your clothing. I always want talk about that, right? Like you want to, like you put on your clothes, but then you add that extra, like you put on earrings, you put on a necklace, you put on a watch, or a scarf or whatever. And if you get into the habit of doing that, it'll come easier when you're building your quilt as well, because it's not just you're layering it, right? And so that I find a lot of inspiration that way. I also do a lot of when I'm trying to think of or be creative and inspirational, I do I have an inspirational boards. So
Oh, mhm.
yeah, so I'll have in my studio, I have a big wall, and sometimes it might be a magazine or something. I even like sometimes on my walks, I'll, pick a flower, the color of the flower or whatever, and I'll bring it back and it'll dry, but I'll put it on my board just to remind me of the color of the certain things to pull
Right.
out from my stash those colors, because sometimes, right, you just need a little inspiration.
Yes. Well, so you're also kind of famous, and you guys, you have to go check out her Instagram. I love watching it. She's taken jeans and
Right.
collaged and embellished the jeans. That was a fun video. She was
Yeah,
half naked.
I was.
Um, Devin and I were watching it, and Devin was like, "Mom, it's like X-rated."
Well, you can't see any. Believe me, what's on TV now and all of that stuff, you can't. I don't show any other than
Right.
possibly my legs and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
neck, but there's no other part. I know my girlfriend. She's like, "Oh my God, Sandy," and I said, "Oh my God, you can't see anything,
You're right.
literally." You know, um, yes, and I came up with a really great idea. Did you see the T-shirts that I
No,
did?
is it something brand new?
Well, I think I made these very popular because it's just regular. You have to get onto my Instagram, and I sold a ton of these, and I do a little video on I there's a video tutorial. You have to pay for it, but it's basically, if you are a sewist, a garment sewer, this will come very easy to you. But some people didn't know how to put on a sleeve. So basically, I took a regular t-shirt, and I don't really wear t-shirts that often because I just don't like the way they look on me.
Yeah.
But I took a regular t-shirt and I cut the sleeves. And then I took cotton fabric, quilting fabric, and I added a new sleeve to it. And some of it, you'll have to look at it, but it's, if you're a garment, if you've made garments, you'll totally understand. You just put in a new sleeve, and I gathered the sleeve, and it was, just like a cap sleeve. I made a ruffle sleeve on one. Oh my God. People were like going, crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I made a little video
Mhm.
about that. But you could take any t-shirt and make it like a work of art.
Uh, well, maybe we need a class on that, because most of the ladies watching, including myself, even though I did win the Make It with Wool contest in 4-H when I was like
Mhm.
16 or something, that was so many years ago. I don't remember how to do it. And I think my mom did most of it for me. Um, but so we need a class on garment sewing, really.
Yeah, well, I'm not, I am a garment sewer, but I don't know if I could teach. I could teach you the class on my t-shirt because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
super easy. And
I think we would love that.
I think anybody could do that. It's super easy. You just find, I like to have the oversized t-shirts because they just, look better on you. At least on me, they do. The oversized t-shirts, and you just find coordinating fabric. I wish I was in my studio because I actually have a whole little garment rack, and I sold a lot of them, but I keep making them, and sometimes I make them for myself because now I do, because I wear them and they look super cute with jeans or just uh, I wear them a lot with my jeans or like my jean skirts in the summertime, but super cute, and you don't need a lot of fabric. I think maybe, well, you do have to um, um, gather it. So I feel like maybe a yard, or even, yeah, maybe half a yard you just have to have enough to gather the sleeve, but it makes
Mhm.
it super cute. And I had these Dolly Parton t-shirts that I love her, right? Who doesn't love Dolly, right?
For
And
sure, she's my favorite.
oh, I know. And I literally, this woman bought three of them. I was so grateful. She bought three of my t-shirts. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find more Dolly Parton. And those were Dolly Parton t-shirts that I had. And I kept thinking, oh, what am I going to do with these? I never wear them. But once I made the sleeve, then I put them up for sale, and sure enough, they were gone. So I need to find more Dolly Parton t-shirts.
Right, right. I have one in my closet, so I'm
Oh, do you?
excited. I'm excited for when you want to do a
Yeah.
class.
So go look on my Instagram. They're on my website as well. I think there's a couple on there. And then another one of my girlfriends, she bought one of the t-shirts. It was oversized, and she used it as underneath her bathing suit. She used it as a cover up. We went to
Okay.
Mexico and she was wearing it, and she says, look, Sandy, and it looks so cute on her. And so I thought, she says, I said, that is perfect. I didn't think about that, wearing it as a cover up.
Right. Right. So we
So
want to get big ones if we want to do a
bigger
cover
one.
up. Yeah.
Exactly. So you just
Yeah.
make it bigger because it's just, it'll look like a little dress with a little cute little ruffled sleeves.
Huh.
Yeah. So on my website, so on my Instagram, I do, I'm having fun on Instagram.
I know, and unlike us, everything we do is live and unedited, but I love yours are so well put together. It's
No.
very entertaining to
So,
watch.
that sometimes it takes me a little while to, get because I'm not, that was not my intention, but I'm trying to teach people like, okay. So I think my Instagram, I do have fun with it. And I'm not as, when I first started, I was like, oh my God, I don't look good. It looks terrible. And well, I need to be who I am. I don't want to be, I'm not on Instagram to be, um, what is that called? Um, on
A superstar, an influencer.
Oh,
Well,
an
no,
influencer. Yes.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
on Instagram to be an influencer.
right,
That's not my goal.
right.
My goal is that I want to inspire you to be creative. And I feel like the joy of sewing and fabric, people just don't, if right? Like how
Right.
happy that can make you, and how, like, I can fill my days sewing, stitching, looking for fabric. I can feel my days doing that, right? And the days go by. But people that don't know, I'm like, it's a whole different, like, you can have so much fun, and there's wonderful people that you can meet, right?
Yes.
So anyway, so on Instagram, I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm just trying to inspire other people to create and to use color.
So
And
how do they find you on Instagram?
so you have to just go, it's Rogers Lane. Rogers Lane.
Okay, Jenny, just type in Rogers Lane in the search bar, and I believe
It's
the very
it's a
first person that
picture.
pops up.
It's a picture of like a Frida, and I actually, that was a art quilt that I did, a collage art quilt, and that one sold. Somebody bought it, and I regret it because that was like one of the first ones that I sold, and then afterwards I was like, I what's that called? I was remorseful that I sold it. I should have kept
Right.
it, I think. But
Right.
then, I can't keep everything I make because I do make a lot of stuff. And I think one day, right, when who knows if my kids will want it, and somebody will just donate it, whatever. So I said, well, if somebody wants to buy it now, I'm just gonna, have
Right.
I'll sell it. because I'm constantly creating um, and making stuff.
And then, do you do classes on faces? And I know
So
we don't have the samples here,
I know
but
it's if you go on my Instagram, you get a lot of, there's a lot of,
you'll get on Instagram, you'll get a really, really good,
yeah,
um, good overall picture of what Sandi does.
right.
And then she does lots of classes. So if you
I
need
do.
class,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I actually, I forgot. So I am actually going to be teaching in 2026. I'm going to be teaching at Empty Spools, Silmar, and
Uh-huh.
um, I'll be teaching a class that's called Fabulous Florals. But I'm creating all new work for that class. So it's, just going to be more updated, and um, so it's all going to be work that nobody's seen before. It's going to be on. Forever Flowers. So if you
Okay.
weren't, yeah, which I love.
Emily says your Instagram has fun content.
Oh, thank you.
And Carolyn says she's looking online at your t-shirts. They're so cute.
They are very cute. They are. I'm telling you, I think a couple of those posts, like I got like a lot of views on them. I was like, oh my God.
Right, right.
um so the t-shirts are fun, and they're easy to make. You can revamp a lot of your t-shirts that way.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
they're quick and easy and pretty affordable gifts.
yeah,
So good things to make for Christmas ahead of
exactly.
time.
Yeah, I would love to do a class on that, but so I prefer to do in-person classes just because I like to be around people. And
Right, right.
so I do enjoy that aspect of it, because basically, I'm in my studio by myself a lot of the times, right? And I like to be around people. So having that opportunity for me to teach in person is always nice.
Right. Well, in all of our classes, we do offer students can come into the shop or they can do it via Zoom. Just
Yeah,
because we have so many followers that aren't local,
right.
but we could totally bring you because you're not that far away. We could totally bring you into the shop and then do
Yeah.
like a weekend of classes or something.
Oh, I would love that, Beth. And I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not opposed to doing Zoom either, but I just feel like you don't get, like, when you see fabric and, just like the stitching and all of that, when you see it up close,
right.
it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah.
You
We're
know,
very
it,
fortunate that we do have the ability for Zoom, but I do think it has taken away a lot of the human connections and
yeah,
interactions.
no,
And she's not going to be at Quilt Show Reno, although she might come to Quilt Show Reno as a guest. But maybe she might come in 2026 as a teacher. You just never know what we've got up our sleeves.
yeah, yeah. No, but I think Zoom, there's a place for it, right? Because I do take Zoom classes myself. Like, if I want to learn another technique, or if I'm interested in other, like something to do with health or whatever, I'll do a Zoom class. But I always find that when I'm in person, I just make better connections. It's just, as far as for me, in trying to get, that feeling, and it really, that calming feeling, and the inspiration, I like to be in person.
Right, right. Well, and I
Yeah,
do think it also, when you're in person, you're more in tune because sometimes when you do a Zoom class, then you get
you get,
somebody who you get a text message, and then pretty soon you're like going and changing your laundry real quick because nobody knows that you're not paying attention.
you're right. I tend to do that. All of a sudden, like, oh, my gardener will be outside, I'll be looking, oh, what's he doing, okay, and I'm
Yes.
attention, as opposed to just being in person.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think just having that connection and we just got out of sync. I mean, I think there's a place for Zoom and it's really important to have that option, but I think it's also important to be in person when you can.
Right.
Makes a big difference.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Terracotta says, or a teacher at our retreats. Very, very likely, Terracotta. And Carolyn says, on your stitchery patterns, are they colored in with fabric pencils?
So those are the ones that they are fabric. Actually, I use crayons, the crayon technique. But so the reason why I decided to do this is the piece that I showed you, that I shared with you, the same piece. This is the same piece, but I didn't color it this time because I want to, you can bind my pattern, but you can do it so many ways, right?
Mhm.
And that's why being inspired by other, just not having, because we buy all these patterns, right? Like I used to buy tons of patterns and then never do them. And then I was thinking, well, I don't want to buy any more patterns. I'm not going to buy any more patterns, but I'll buy, like, I want to showcase, like if you have my pattern, if you have this one, I want to showcase another way you can stitch it up. You don't have to color it in if you don't want, but if you wanted to do it, you can. And the other reason it's a paper pattern, I don't do it on fabric because I want to give you the option of either you trace it by yourself, either on a tracing. I have a big
White
light box.
box?
Yeah, I have a light box, but sometimes when I'm away, I just use a window and I'll do, I'll take the old fashioned way because I do like doing things the old fashioned way. And um but I want to showcase. I give you the paper pattern because I don't want to print it on paper on fabric, because I want to give you the option for you to make it into whatever you want to make it into. You can make it into a pillow. You could stitch this piece and make it, could be like a medallion quilt. You could put this as the center of your your quilt and then add blocks to it. And that's what my whole technique is, like that. Wasabi wabi. I forget the name of it. I'm forgetting the Japanese term, but it's
Mhm. But they could even
wabi sabi. It's like just taking a piece and forgetting about trying to like not center on it being perfect, and then it does become a piece of art.
mhm.
What
Well,
was
and I mean, they could even add and do fabric in the bead to create an applique
oh
if they
yeah,
didn't
you
like
could do,
embroidery. There's so
right.
many options.
There's a lot of options.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think a pattern is basically we purchase the patterns because it's a great idea, but then hopefully we have enough technique and skills kind of in our toolbox that we can spin off from the pattern and create our
right.
own pieces of artwork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I leave mine, I do explain in my patterns, make it your own and try to explore different, but again, I mean, I've also bought in patterns and I want to make it exactly the way that person made it because I really like that. So
Right.
I'll do that as well.
Yeah.
So, um, but
Carolyn says she's going to order the bee and the bird patterns.
oh, okay, wonderful.
Perfect,
Yeah,
Carolyn.
yeah. And I made pillows with all of those, and I also I put like on some of my pillows, I put pom poms at the corner, on the corner. I made a big ruffle. My mom used to make pillows all the time, and she would make that big ruffle
Mm-hmm.
around them. So there's so many things you can do with them.
Right.
With again, you can stitch them up. Um, you can make them into an applique, like you said. Um, so, and I will have, I have to, my other patterns, the other collage, the face collage patterns. I have two of those. They're at the printer right now, but I think that she might have I have someone that helps me with all my website, and she had said that she put him on my website, but I'm not sure if she made them live yet. So, because I said, oh, I don't, I'll check to see later tonight to see if everything is looking good, and then you can. But I'm not sure if they're. I know they're on there, but I don't know if she made them live.
Okay. So you do faces, and I know a lot of people, they're kind of like pieces of artwork, really. They're
Yeah.
kind of fun and funky faces, not super realistic. And I
No.
know for a lot of people, faces are kind of scary. Like we tend to say, oh, I couldn't do that.
Yes.
So do you have any tips and tricks, or, well, we probably need a face class. Uh-oh, where'd she go? Can you hear me, Sandy? Hello? Sandy? Sandy? Okay, I'm just going to come on here for a minute so you guys don't think that we have a black screen. I'm not sure what happened to Sandy. I don't know where she went. She went poof. Okay, so while we're waiting for Sandy to come back, do you guys have any questions? If you, it's kind of sad she's not at home because you guys would love all of her photos. Can you guys see me? Can you go on and see what's going on? It's a blackout. Sandy's screen is just black. I think they can still see me, but I'm not sure. Sandy? Thank you, Lori. Oh, she got dropped. Okay, here. She said she got dropped. Okay, hang on a second. Oh, she said she can hear me. Okay, I'm gonna tell her. Okay, Sandy, I'm texting you, but go out and come back in because it's just a black screen for you. So go out and come back in. Technology. I don't know really what happened. Okay, so while we're waiting for her to come back in, if you guys have any questions, there she is.
I have no idea what happened.
Me neither. That was so crazy.
Okay.
I don't know. We gotta like take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really know where we were, but
we were talking about the faces. So when I do the faces, even when I do my fabulous florals class, well, first of all, I bring a lot of flowers, so you're inspired. I like to bring flowers in vases so that you can see. And then the face classes, I provide you with simple templates of faces, and then once you start doing it, you'll start creating your own faces super easily. I mean,
right.
it's a matter of you just drawing a little bit. And again, I was never a drawer until I started painting a couple of years ago. And I just was able to make a face pretty easily after several attempts. And so I think it's just practicing. Just like quilting, right? The more you practice, the better you get.
Right. Well, and I had a class one time where a gal just would not start. And literally we were coloring on the fabric and she wouldn't start. She was terrified she was going to do it wrong. And finally I gave her an extra piece of fabric and I said, okay, you got 2 minutes to do the shittiest job you've ever done. I said, nobody cares. Just start, just go. And it ended up being the best one in the entire class because once she was able to like give herself permission that if she messed up, it didn't matter. It was just a piece of fabric.
Right.
It was so freeing for her. It was so freeing. And I think a lot of times we're afraid to start because we don't want to make something that's going to look stupid. And we don't really, for a lot of us, we didn't go to art school, so we don't consider ourselves artists necessarily. Yeah. And we're really kind of afraid that it's not going to be perfect or it's not going to be right. But I think not perfect is better than not doing it at all. Because once you give yourself that permission, you kind of are able to just fly, really.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. And I think I always say when you ever want to learn something, find a children's book. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the easiest way, like the instructions, like if you want to crochet, knit, anything, sewing, go find yourself a kid's book and follow it. And it is as simple as that. It's like, step one, step two. And I'm like, that's how you do that. That's how you do that. Find a kid's book, even drawing, find a kid's book and, but you'll have to practice, right? You have to get, if that's what you want to learn how to do. But the more you practice, the more you will learn how to draw. And sometimes I just have to see something and I'm like, oh, okay, it's a cow. And I have to like draw it. I mean, if somebody told me draw a cow, I mean, I always want to reference a photo
Right.
because that's the way I always learn. That's how I draw things. I reference
Right.
a photo and I'm like, okay, then I switch it up a little bit, to make it what I want it to be.
Right. And if for me, I'm not a drawer, so I'm going to take a printout, a photo printout or something, and I'm going to trace it.
Yeah.
And then once I have that main body, then I can go in and kind of do my own thing.
Right.
But just to look at a photo and be like, oh, I can whip that out.
Exactly.
Maybe I could, but it might look like a stick figure.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you guys have any questions for Sandi? What about so I know we kind of covered you. I think you have a new jacket. So well, I've ran into Sandi several times at quilt shows, and people are always like, when you stop to talk to her, people are always stopping to like take her photo in her jackets. Like they always want a picture of her jackets. So you've got some great patterns and we would, I think, love to do a class on a jacket.
Yeah, I would love to do it. I mean, I have the vest pattern too that I love my vest because I'm especially in the summertime or whenever it's always nice to have like an extra something on. And even if you could wear it sleeveless or just over and I wish I had it here to share it with you guys. And then I have the jacket. But my quilted jacket and vest, they're different than the quilted they're basically just strips. Again, the creativeness of I don't really there's no rhyme or reason. You can do a wider strip, smaller strip. If you look at the jacket, my strips are not all the same, but it really looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And so, and then I just bind it with just regular, you can make your own binding or you could store buy it, the binding.
Right. Bias binding.
Yeah, the bias binding, yes. So those are also fun and they're not as hard because I only do straight stitching on it. So the quilting is pretty, it's simple.
Yeah. So do you kind of basically, for those of them watching that aren't kind of myself included, we're not clothing makers. Is it kind of like making a quilt? So we don't really need to be too intimidated because
it is like making, you just are piecing things together, right? Like I take maybe I'll find, I don't know, like a 4x6 piece, and then I'll take another piece and I match I'll just make a big piece, like a big piece of fabric. And then I put my pattern piece on there and I cut it and then I quilt it.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh, there she goes again. All right, Sandi. I don't know. Well, I know that Sandi's traveling right now, so I don't know if her internet might not be too stable, is what I'm guessing. So do you guys have any questions for Sandi? We will get her scheduled. Oh, there you are. We will get her scheduled for classes. No, so you can just let us know. You can call me or you can type it in the comments.
Can you
what
hear me?
Classes you're interested in.
I can't hear you now.
I can hear you, Sandi. Can you hear me? Wait. We just had you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Oh,
You can't.
oh,
You can't.
now I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh my gosh, Judy, I'm so glad to see you. Judy says yes, she definitely wants classes. Okay, so we're
I
going to
would
have to
love,
get it on the calendar.
yeah, I would love, and I have a vest pattern that is just a general vest pattern. It's like I don't have really sizes because it just, you have to like, because once you sew it, you kind of have to, measure it. You have to take it in a little bit. So but it's like, it goes from like small to like, I think extra large or whatever, the vest pattern.
Yeah, and vests are pretty easy to add, a couple extra strips and put it on
Yeah.
your body to make sure that it's
Yeah,
going to fit
and
or around your
I
chest.
show you how to do that because even when I did mine, mine was a little big from the back, and then I had to take it in. So I do, if I'm doing a garment class, I do teach you because I want you to fit it. Make the garment so that it will fit you.
Right. And I think that is a lot of times people are a little bit leery about doing garments because a lot of times we don't know how to fit it to our body specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And
a vest, yeah, and a vest is, you don't want like my vest when you see it on my Instagram, because I'm wearing other clothes with it, right? So you don't want it super tight. You want it a little loose so that if you wear it with other clothes, it's gonna,
right.
it's just to add warmth and color, to add color to whatever you're wearing.
Right.
So
But I do think that is one of the things that kind of, I don't want it to look sloppy or homemade.
right. Oh,
I want it to look handmade, not homemade. There's a difference.
It won't. Believe
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
do you guys have any questions for Sandi? And do you have any advice for people? I know color is a huge issue for people picking their colors. And do you have, I know you do a color class. Do you have any quick advice on
color?
Yeah.
My easiest and quick, the best way to figure out color is when you're walking and I walk all the time. So, and I love looking at flowers and people's gardens, right? So if you're walking, take a photo of that and you'll see how beautiful all the colors intermix with it. There's greens, there's pinks, reds, yellows, and it all looks beautiful. Looks really, really beautiful. And so I think when you want to start learning about color, I think the easiest way is to look at your environment, right? Being outside, and just, looking at color, looking at, oh, what is, how do things go together?
Right.
Because I don't actually use a color wheel when I teach color. It's all about teaching your eye to look at color. And so, because I like color, I like to infuse color into my clothing, into my pieces of work. I mean, as you can see in this piece, I and it all goes together.
Right.
It's all fuses together. So, but that's, I think, just trying to be more aware, like when you're looking at stuff, just be more aware of the colors, and you'll start realizing, oh, look, that's yellow, and it goes with that green or that red, or so.
And one of the things that we learned in one of the color lectures we took at QuiltCon is that everybody's eye sees color differently. So everybody has a different interpretation of color. So I
Well,
kind of feel like if it looks good to you, it's perfect.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want, like, this color palette might be great for me, but you might say, oh, that's not something I would even wear or be drawn to. And that's why I try to, you have your own stash of fabric, right? That's your color palette. Use it. But learn to use that, learn to infuse that color palette with things that you have, right?
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you girls have any, and gentlemen, have any other question? Okay, Barb says I definitely see color differently after cataract surgery.
Oh,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Hey Mary, welcome. You're gonna have to go back and rewatch this because Sandy's gonna do some clothing classes for us. Okay, so any other questions you guys have for Sandy, real quick? And do you have anything else you'd like to tell us or say, Sandy?
No, I'm just thankful that I've always, Beth has such great style. I've always every time I was like, when you would come to San Mateo to the
Quilt Craft Sew Expo.
yeah, but it's no longer in San Mateo. But
No.
I would definitely like go right to her booth because I just love, and I love that you put all those kits together. I love it.
Yeah.
Love. And
Yeah.
I think what you create is just right up my alley. I love all that stuff.
Right. Wild and crazy, kind of.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, there's really nothing you can't put together, in my
Right.
opinion. I mean,
Right.
sometimes there is, and you know it when you see it. But for the most part, I think as long as you're having fun, it doesn't really matter what you're creating.
Yeah. I remember you made this really beautiful skirt out of Alexander Henry fabric. It was the
Frida skirt.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I need to go buy me some
Right.
yardage of that.
Well, and that's one of the things as a quilt shop owner, I love garment makers because garment makers come in and they're like, oh, I need 3 or 4 yards of this fabric, as opposed to quilters who come in and they're like, oh, I just need a 2.5-inch strip,
Exactly.
They're very different shoppers.
Yes. And I think, QuiltCon was fun, but I had a great time looking at everybody in their garments.
Yes. That was the best part of QuiltCon by far.
Yes, I was taking photos of everybody. I was like, oh my God, look at that.
Yes.
So that was very fun for me.
Yeah, and the garments were incredible.
Yes.
Like the one gal, she had a different outfit. She's a designer out of Canada, and she had a different outfit every day, and her friend had a different outfit every day that were classes that she taught. And one day it was intricate pieced overalls, and then she had a matching coordinating jacket that was reversible. Both sides were incredible. I mean, the outfits were really, it kind of reminded me of Houston Quilt Market back in the day, like 20 years ago when Fairfield promoted a fashion show.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it was hundreds of people in the auditorium to watch the fashion show. It was so first class. Back in the day, it was kind of like, when you had to dress up to get on an airplane. It was so incredible. The garments at QuiltCon were, I mean, they were really out of this world.
Yeah, they're quite stunning. I was so impressed. I was like, oh my God, I should have worn more of my...
Well, that's what I thought. I need to up my game.
Yes,
like,
I know.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh, how it was really fun to watch people in all the clothing that they made with all the fabric, right?
Right. I'm hoping to create something like that at Quilt Show Reno. So all of you girls watching, we want to see your one-of-a-kind outfits. And I think we've got some plans going on, but I think we're gonna have impromptu fashion shows at Quilt Show Reno when we can get the stage and have lots of prizes and fun. So I'm looking forward to that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Yes. So anyways, but I'm so thankful, Beth, that we started chatting and that you got me on here. Yeah, follow me on Instagram because I do, even though, and if I do have a newsletter, I get lazy about sending that out, but I will mostly, all the information is on Instagram. And so, but sign up for my newsletter because who knows what will happen to Instagram.
Right, right. Perfect. And then we'll interview you again when you're at home so we can see your studio and all
Yes.
that good
Oh my
stuff.
God.
And
Yes.
Jane says she modeled for Fairfield at AQS. Her sister made the outfit.
Wow.
Perfect. Jane, those were the good old days. Those were really, if you weren't around in the quilting industry back in the 90s, you really missed out on in my opinion, on the glory days. Okay, so Lori says, are you on Facebook and YouTube as well?
Well, I am on Facebook. It's the same, but I don't post as much on Facebook because when I first started Facebook, I befriended everybody, right? It was that time. And so now it's partially just more of my family that are on Facebook. So I'll send them private messages, but mostly just on Instagram. I can't keep, and then
It's a lot to keep track of. It's a lot to
it is, and
answer. Yeah.
I can't do it all. And so I do have YouTube, but I think I have like one or two videos on there, and I keep on saying that I'm going to do more, but again, it's hard because it's just me. And
well, and you kind of really have to decide, do you want to actually create or do you want to spend all your time on social media?
I
You
know,
can't.
well, that's
Yes.
the thing, and I can't,
Yes, I agree.
and so
Yeah.
it's very hard.
Yeah.
So, and I want to create.
Me too. I want to create. I did see a thing on I listened to a podcast and it said the average American spends 7 hours scrolling or interacting with their phone every day. So I think if we just took half that time and spent it actually sewing, we would get so much done.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
For
sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys. I will talk to Sandy. We'll get her scheduled. We'll let you know what classes we have coming up. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for our regular live sale. Have a great couple days and go get some sewing done. And I did keep track of who posted projects this weekend. So we'll have some prizes on Wednesday. All right. Have a good couple of days. Bye.